Stage Star was the horse we were all waiting for. Pentland Hills had broken through by being Owners Group's first Grade 1 and Cheltenham and Aintree Festival winner, but as always, when you've had a taste of success from the top table, you want more. Along came Stage Star, a winner on debut who took us back to the winners' enclosure at the Cheltenham Festival during an era of Irish domination. Let's look back at where it all started. Dan Downey first recommended his purchase.
So I remember really clearly seeing Stage Star for the first time, actually at William Biddick's yard, where Paul sends a lot of his store horses when they come over from Ireland. He was on a list of about 5 or 6 that I looked at, and it's easy to say now, but at the time he was definitely my favourite. Wasn't the most expensive actually, but he was a real athlete, and you could see, yes, he was a little bit weak and he was going to take a little bit of time. He wasn't the classic sort of big, round, sort of strong, sort of jumping type that you might expect Paul to be attracted to. But the thing that I loved about him, and obviously attracted Paul as well, was his athleticism. You know, you could see that once he strengthened up, he was going to be a really lovely specimen. And there was just something about him, you know, he had a sort of look in his eye. I loved the way he came out. He was always active. He always wanted to go from A to B rather than thinking backwards. And I think that, for me, is a really important trait in any racehorse.
Will Biddick broke him in and gives us his early thoughts.
We had a bunch of about, I think, 18 or 20 that year, and yeah, he was. You wouldn't say he was necessarily the pick of the bunch at the time with his early stages, but he just kept progressing. So much natural ability. He always had a natural jump, and yeah, he just kept progressing. It was fantastic.
I mean, in the spring we took him for a gallop round Charlton Hawthorn point to point. He moved nicely that day.
Yeah, we took a few to gallop around the point to point track, and you know, everything came natural to this horse. You know, whether it was the first day we went schooling or the first day we took him away for a little away day, he just took everything in his stride.
Lorcan Williams rode him in his debut bumper at Chepstow at a time when owners were not permitted to go racing due to COVID regulations.
Lightning Gold with Stage Star in the mauve, A View to See in the purple sleeves. Over on the far side, Champagne Rhythm moving forward for Eleanor Williams. Then behind these, Mercutio Rock, Roscoe Tara has just begun to weaken out of things. Lightning Gold is sticking to the task gallantly, having been so far clear, is not giving up the lead without a fight. Stage Star over on the far side and A View to See on the near side. They're away at the moment from the Williams pair, Champagne Rhythm and Get Out of My Dreams. But now Stage Star and A View to See move to the lead. In third place, the gallant run is over for Lightning Gold as they've got a furlong to travel. And out in front, it is Stage Star who's beginning to power away here. The gap opening swiftly from A View to See. Then in third place, Lightning Gold ahead of Mercutio Rock. But the curtain comes down with a success for Stage Star for Lorcan Williams and Paul Nicholls.
Lorcan, you started Stage Star's journey winning at Chepstow so emphatically. No owners there during COVID. What did he feel like that day to you?
Well, leading up to the day, it was quite a regular day. It was I can remember being a conditional jockey's bumper, and all in my head was I was just going to ride an ordinary horse in a bumper, which I knew had a chance, cause obviously being one of Paul's, but wasn't expecting to sit on something that's gone to the heights that he did. He was a fantastic horse, fantastic, a really long stride on him. He was a very pleasant horse. He was always a very willing partner. But I can remember that day how much he impressed me, because he fairly romped home that day, and he had such a great attitude. I was very lucky to be a part of his journey early on. I'm glad that he's got home safe and sound and done well for you guys.
Stage Star later finished third in the Grade 2 bumper at Aintree's Grand National meeting under Harry Skelton before embarking on a hurdling campaign the following season.
as they race on down towards the last 2.5 furlong. Stage Star with now Nappers Hill giving chase. It's a Nichols 1-2 at this stage. Peking Rose moving into third. Balco Coastal running on now at just the one pace from Lateral Lad. Stage Star just wandering around a little in front. Nappers Hill is pressing hard on the far side. Peking Rose in third with a couple of lengths to make up. Nappers Hill and Stage Star trading punches. Nappers Hill beginning to forge on. Peking Rose is still running on. Nappers Hill, Peking Rose beginning to close. Nappers Hill for Megan and Paul Nicholls takes the finale on National Day from Peking Rose. Right in behind him in third, a Stage Star.
After winning flawlessly at Chepstow,
Stage Star then just needs to get this one right, produced a big jump, lands with a 6-length lead over Deeper Blue. Over it in third is Young Butler. These are a long way clear of Art Deco and Crystal Moon. A quick double for Paul Nicholls and Harry Cobden. Stage Star wins well.
and Newbury.
The last flight, Stage Star. This time he was asked and he delivered, and he touched down with about a 4-5 length advantage over Unanswer Prez in second. King Guardian has moved into third and running on, but close to the winning line. Stage Star is going to coast home. He has the long odds on chance and wins as they should do. Harry Cobden, Stage Star, very easy winners.
Stage Star started favourite for a race Paul Nicholls likes to farm, the Grade 1 Challow Hurdle at Newbury, run after Christmas.
Inside the final furlong, Stage Star is living up to his name in some style here, because he's put this to bed very impressively indeed, and he comes home to make it 3 out of 3 over hurdles for Harry Cobden and Paul Nicholls. Stage Star is the star in the Challow Hurdle.
Let's hear from jockey Harry Cobden.
I really fancy Stage Star going into the Challow Hurdle. A race that Paul done so well in before. He was utterly brilliant at Chepstow earlier on in the season, and we were going there with lots of hope, and he popped out, jumped brilliantly and quickened up the straight like you wouldn't believe. Pinged the last, and yeah, it was an unbelievable day.
And Dan offers his thoughts.
So I remember really clearly watching the Challow Hurdle on television. We were all quite excited. I remember a couple of days before, the studio in the offices sent round a visual for us that we could post on the social media sites, and it was just a bit bizarre because it sort of said, Grade 1 winner, Stage Star, in anticipation and hope that if he did, then obviously we could post something. And I think at that point, even then, I got sort of butterflies and thought, oh God, I really hope, because he was a horse we always really liked, and you never quite know when you throw them into Grade 1 company whether they are going to sink or swim, and the dreams are either shattered or you go on and you can dream even more, and so it's always a worry. But yeah, I remember watching that race and actually not really having too many nervous moments. He travelled through it really well. He jumped great, and it was pretty straightforward in the end. And yeah, that was a very special day, and it was a day that we thought, okay, we've got something special here.
The rest of the season did not go to plan for Stage Star, as he developed stomach ulcers diagnosed after pulling up at both Cheltenham and Aintree. Next season, we headed with a little anxiety to the Stan Mellor Memorial Chase at Warwick in November, hoping to see our star return to form.
West Cork trying to mount a challenge. Here's the final fence. Stage Star to West Cork, who made a mistake in second. They're clear of In Turn to Civilla, and Stage Star is in full command here. This is more like it. This is the sort of form that saw him win the Challow Hurdle last Christmas. He's storming clear. He could almost go round again. Stage Star dominates and wins the Stan Mellor Memorial.
After coming through this challenge, Stage Star was then turned over at odds on in the John Francombe Chase at Newbury before winning a match at Plumpton.
Here's 2 out. Oh, he asked him for a big one there, Harry Cobden, and Stage Star really delivered as they run now towards the final fence. Stage Star draws away from Mortlock in second. Just got to get the last fence right, comes in to take it, and brilliant again. Stage Star well over from Mortlock, and on the run for home is going to be a very easy win, a second win over fences for Stage Star, who comes about 10 lengths clear of sole rival Mortlock.
And the Timeform Novices Handicap Chase at Cheltenham's Trials meeting, the first part of a double completed by Hacker de Plas later in the day.
This is the home turn. Stage Star is still in front. Still got a length advantage here with Harry Cobden. That's all right, Gino coming through in the dark colours to take second, and he launches a challenge as they come the two from the finish. Behind those in third position was Landon Arbo Lad, but it's Stage Star, top weight of 12 stone, been in front most of the way. That's all right, Gino, the final pursuer and challenger at the final fence. Stage Star jumped it well, he jumped all of them well. He's 2 lengths ahead and heads up the run into That's all right, Gino, unexpected party. Stage Star, though, has carried top weight to a very, very good victory here with Harry Cobden.
Stage Star now became a fancy for the Turners Novices Chase at the festival. Let's hear again from Harry.
Going into the Turners, we had a bit of a up and down start for chasing. It started really well at Warwick. We obviously got beat at Newbury, but going into the Turners, we were a bit of an underdog, and there wasn't any pressure for me whatsoever because the Irish horses were the really fancy ones and we were just running to do our best. So I got a freebie the whole way round. He jumped brilliantly and loved Cheltenham because he always used to lean a little bit left, and I could just ride him off the rail rather than fiddle about with his mouth. And I just remember jumping the third last, which is the trappy fence at the top of the hill, thinking I'm still going quite well here, and I've let him roll down into second last, and then I've had one come to his tail turning in, and I've just unleashed him across the crossing, and he's picked up really well. Pinged the last, and yeah, probably one of my best days in my career ever. So yeah, that was an unbelievable day, and I just, walking in, the reception he got, going into the paddock after he won, that was incredible, and a day that I won't ever forget.
And here's how Dan organised his day around our big race.
So I have a sort of, when we have a horse running in a big race, if I'm there at the racecourse, I tend to just take myself off and be on my own. I don't like being around anyone, whether that's the trainer, owners, stable staff, anyone. I'd rather just watch things on my own. I don't want to hear a commentary from anyone else next to me. So that particular day when he won at Cheltenham at the festival, I timed my day. I had to drive down to Wiltshire, and I timed that so I couldn't watch the race because I was too nervous. And I thought I would sort of stop at a services when I felt brave. And as it turned out, as the sort of time ticked along, we got to the point where it was time for the Turners to be off. I couldn't stand it, so I thought, okay, right, I'm going to go pull over and watch it. So I was very brave, having thought in the first place I wouldn't be able to watch it live. But again, it was just one of those special runs. And I said to Ryan the other day when we were talking about this, there was no better sight than watching Stage Star when he locked on down the hill at Cheltenham for the last time. You could just, if he was travelling well and he'd ping those last fences, and that was really important. And I think at that time, not only for us it was but for Paul and his team, it was vindication really, because it was a horse that had always promised to be a proper Grade 1 performer, and for him to go out and do it over fences at the festival against all of those Irish horses, and it was a big day.
When you run horses at the festival, you lose more than you win and often leave very disappointed. but to win there is unparalleled. This represented a huge team effort, as despite what they may say, both Paul and Harry were under huge pressure before this race, having gone a couple of days without a winner. Stage Star offered immediate release from the festival pressure cooker, and it felt as though we had hundreds of owners present on either side of the ring lifting him home. Paul Nicholls trained Stage Star specifically for the Paddy Power Gold Cup the following season, even though he was set to carry one of the top weights. Paul had excelled in the race before and sent Stage Star to the race in peak condition. Harry gives us his thoughts.
The Paddy Power was another fantastic win from Stage Star. Carrying top weight in such a prestigious high-class race is not an easy thing to do, and we kept it very simple that day, got into a good rhythm, made all, jumped great. I pressed on a little bit down the back, managed to fill him at the top of the hill, and he just came alive down the hill, winged the third last, turned in, winged the second last, still going really well, and he nearly came down at the last. And I just remember it was heart and mouth stuff, that the way we nearly came down, and he still, the bravery of the horse, he'd still picked up and sprinted up the hill clear of the rest and won really nicely. It was a fantastic day, and yeah, it was my first Paddy Power, and it was just an unbelievable day.
And Dan offers his memories too.
So a bit like the Turners, it was sort of like watching the same race really when he won the Paddy Power, apart from the last fence, obviously. Again, I watched it on television. I knew Ryan would be there supporting him, and it was just a joy to watch. And we thought the lead up to the race, obviously he was carrying nearly top weight, and it was going to be a big ask, but we were hopeful that we had him in really good shape after the summer, and Paul had aimed him for that race, and he was at that point a horse that tended to run very well fresh and run very well at the first sort of half of the season. So although we knew we had a big task at the weights, we were hopeful that he would run a positive race, and it just shows how much he must have had in him to not fall and to go again after making that shocking mistake at the last. I mean, most horses would have fallen because they would have been very tired by that point. So, but it just shows how classy he was in that company to get himself up and then gallop up the hill really strongly. So very impressive.
Stage Star needed to go left-handed, and opportunities for him over 2.5 miles were limited. The following season, this led us to try a new distance of 3 miles. So he contested the Cotswold Chase at Cheltenham's Trials meeting, where he had to carry more weight than favourite L'Homme Presse, thanks to his Paddy Power win.
Stage Star and L'Homme Presse, still there together. Up the hill they come then. Green and white jacket, L'Homme Presse nearest the grandstand. Mauve and black of Stage Star. Very little between them now. They've still only got 50 yards or so to go. L'Homme Presse from Stage Star. Very close between them. They come to the line. L'Homme Presse has won.
Dan describes the race so well.
So last season we knew that we were going to step up in trip. It was something we'd always talked about, and then when we decided to go for the Cotswold Chase in January, again it was great to watch him travel and jump so well and come down the hill, and I sort of thought, oh my god, maybe we should have been going 3 miles all this time, because it looked like he was going to keep galloping and gallop away from all of his rivals that day. As it happened, he found one slightly too good up the run-in. I mean, he ran a cracker, as he, when he was in top form, he didn't ever put a foot wrong, and it was a really impressive performance. Real gutter that he didn't win that race. It would have been a real special way for his final, what it turned out to be his final season. But we couldn't have been disappointed because he was a horse that we thought, is he as good as he once was? You know, that was the sort of feeling we had at the beginning of last season. There were a few question marks. Everyone worked really hard. The team at Ditchit worked really hard. Paul was very focused on where we were going, what we were doing with him. Belinda, the physio, was in every week looking at him and working on him. The vets had done a great job in the summer. So it was, you know, it would have been lovely had he won, but we were just delighted to see him run a brilliant race.
Harry will refer to this race shortly. Now let's hear from one of his best friends, his physio Belinda, who kept Stage Star on the road.
I used to go and treat him at Paul's for about the last 10 months that he was in training, and I saw him nearly every week. And he's my friend. That's what he is. He's my friend for life, and I absolutely adore him. I do get very close to a lot of the horses that I treat, but you have the odd one that is just super special, and he would be one of those. You are special, and yeah.
Another vital cog in the wheel was Chloe, who looked after and rode Stage Star later on in his career. Chloe spent hours working with Belinda to ensure Stage Star was always as good as he could possibly be.
So I used to go down to Highbridge and ride him in his work in his early days. He's always been a very smart, straightforward horse to do. So yeah, I used to enjoy going down and riding him once or twice a week. Oh, he was great. He was straightforward, he was dependable, he would lead past anything, he was lead down the gallops. That was his favourite place to be, really, in front, strutting around, showing off. He was probably one of the toughest racehorses I've ever met. He always tried his hardest, and he is thoroughly missed.
A vital member of Team Ditchit is head groom Clifford Baker, who is a man of few words but spoke fondly of Stage Star.
We always managed to get him to the racetrack for the big days in the best of form, and to be fair to him, he never let us down. Won 2 Grade 1s and run some great races, even as a bumper horse. He loved his work. We didn't need to overwork him because he wasn't the biggest sort of horse. He was always a lean sort of horse, so we didn't want him to get too thin, so we didn't overwork him. But I think we got the happy medium with him and managed to produce him on the days we needed to. We hoped he'd go and win the Cello in his novice hurdles, and he didn't let us down. And obviously he's a festival winner, a Paddy Power winner. I mean, he didn't do a lot wrong, so I think we liked him for everything he did.
And we better hear from his trainer before Harry sums up what Stage Star meant to him and indeed all of us.
Obviously it was a real pleasure training Stage Star, you know, over the years. What a fantastic horse he was for me and for the owners group. You know, he started off winning his bumper, then he did well over hurdles, won the Cello Hurdle, which is a race we love to win. And then he won the novices handicap chase at Cheltenham, which we only just got beat with Quebec on the weekend. Then went on and won the Turners, and as you know, he won the Paddy Power Gold Cup and ran some fantastic races in defeat. And what a wonderful horse. I wouldn't mind having a few more like him.
Another great day, although we didn't win, was the Cotswold Chase. Stage Star and La Homme Presse taking each other on. We didn't go very fast that day. We tried to sort of set it up for ourselves, so I thought we might beat La Homme Presse for a bit of toe. And we hacked round, jumped beautifully on the way around, and got in such a nice rhythm. And it was like the 2 old boys taking each other on down to second last, and we both winged it. Came down to last, we both winged the last as well. And he was so tough, Stage Star. And, you know, those 2 quality horses taking each other on up the hill just made it into an unbelievable race. And although we only just got done in the last sort of 50-60 yards, I just thought it showed the true guts of him, you know, his will to win, his, you know, the fact that he had so much fight about him. And yeah, he was a very, very special horse to me, not only because he was good, but, you know, he just wanted it. And You know, a lot of horses have ability, but I think he had just more than that. He wanted to win. He tried hard. He always wanted to please, and to find a genuine horse like him is a very, very hard thing to do. So, reflecting on the career that we had with him, I think we were very, very lucky that he found us or we found him, and we had some fantastic days that I'm sure we'll all never forget.
After the Cotswold Chase, we elected to freshen Stage Star up for one final tilt that season in the Grade 1 Bowl at Aintree. Although he disappointed in the previous couple of seasons at the meeting, this was the first time he was going there fresh since he was a young horse when he finished third in the Grade 2 bumper on Grand National Day. As you'll see, once again, he did not let us down.
Stage Star with Grey Dawning moving to within half a length there on takeoff. The lengthy run between the final two. Gaelic Warrior coming into it now under Patrick Mullins. Stage Star trying to cling on and trying to fend off Grey Dawning, but can't manage it. Grey Dawning goes on. Gaelic Warrior, the big threat, on the outside as they come to the 19th fence. Grey Dawning, Gaelic Warrior, a huge threat the outside. Grey Dawning not fluent, and Gaelic Warrior has taken up the running under Patrick Mullins. An ice cool ride.
Aintree, which is my favourite meeting of the year, so I always tend to go. Again, a race that we'd aimed at, and we gave Cheltenham a miss on purpose. We wanted him to be fresh and well, and again, all the work that went into Stage Star before that race, it was lovely to see it pay off with a really solid run. I think he was more tired than he looked. To some, I thought he was probably right at the sort of limits of his stamina reserves, and whether we would be getting away with it, 3 miles. I'm not sure whether he got it really, because I think it was more his guts and heart that saw him finish third that day. You could see he was very tired at the last fence, but he took off and jumped beautifully and galloped, but he didn't have that spark, and I don't think it was to do with being the end of the season. I think it was more to do with, did he quite stay that extra distance? But it was a brilliant run, and a nice way for him to finish his career. He to finish on a high in a Grade 1 at the Grand National meeting was great, and to be there was very special. And he's a horse that we never took for granted. We were very clear that we were blessed to have him, and his owners had a great ride with him. And the fact that he's finished his career and able to enjoy a happy retirement is wonderful.
It will take us a very long time to find another horse like him, but I'm so grateful for having him in our lives, and hope he enjoys a long and very happy retirement.
So we've really come full circle now. Stage Star's been back at Equine Prep a few months. He's recovering really well from his little niggling injury, and as you can see, he looks fabulous. And in the next few weeks, when the weather warms up and his winter coat really comes out, he will look stunning. We can't wait to get him out in the paddock and enjoy watching him turned out with his friends. But I think we get to this point and we're just so grateful for everything he's done, for all the good times, and just look at him now. He's so noble, and what a clever racehorse he was, and an amazing athlete, and we're so fortunate to have him. So here's to Stage Star and a long and happy retirement.